Wow. Yay, welcome. Welcome to the talk about the Isis Sophia mythos of our time. It's kind of like a strange title, which in the end it will make sense. So this whole storyline, it starts when I had a car accident. I went through the window. My face got put together with more than 100 stitches, and like they told me if I will ever be able to see again when my eyes are swollen off. And then I had a near-death experience, and then after this I came back, and I wanted to know why this accident had to happen to me, because my face, like more than 100 stitches, loads of scars, and I thought if anyone can tell me, it's probably going to be somebody like him. He is the 14th Shamarpa Rinpoche, and so das ist ein Shamarpa Rinpoche, das ist ein buddhistischer Rinpoche, der 14 Mal wiedergeboren ist. Und ich habe mir gedacht, wenn mir das einer sagen kann, dann so jemand. So I thought, if anyone can tell me, it's got to be someone like him. I got an introduction into Buddhism with him for 2 days. It was part of a whole seminar. And during this introduction, the one thing that gave us before we had to all write down our birth names and our date of birth. And then at the end of this 2-day introduction, he said okay, now you can get up and pick up your booklets, your prayer books, and that's how you get your Buddhist name. He had 25 of those, a whole pile of them. And we thought, okay, this is how we get our names. And he took them one after the other and handed them to us. And we thought, okay, this is how by good luck we get our Buddhist name. So he didn't open them. He didn't we just got up and got them. And when we opened the books, we all had our Buddhist name and our real name in the books. And so they do work with a different And so I asked for a private audience with him, and I asked him why this accident had to happen to me. And he said, don't be angry about it. See it as a chance. With this accident, you lived out your karma that you built up in this life and in your recent lives. See it as a chance. The balance now is equal, and it's up to you in which side to invest. And I thought wow, I've been given a new life. And then I somehow when I got at that moment I was working for Audi, night shift, the car factory, and I was a union worker. And I somehow I started to play my drum and my djembe, and I somehow, friends told me to come to Ibiza, and that's how I ended up on Ibiza. They told me to take my drum. I'm okay, I take my drum. And then when the door of the plane opened, it smelled like home. That was the only thing that I could but I didn't know why, I didn't know how. And then the island showed me how to live there. And so I became a percussionist in the clubs. I left my job working for Audi behind with one djembe on my back, ready to conquer the world. And I thought, well, if I only put out good things, then only good things can come back. And this is how I started to live my dream, basically, as a percussionist on Ibiza. And this is, oh, did you see her coming in just now?
And how many years do you live here in Glastonbury?
15 years now.
15 years now.
Yeah, 15 years. At a certain point, I will come to that point. So this is what my life on Ibiza looked like. Oh, this is why I need to cut this again. So, but for now.
Okay.
So that's kind of this, huh?
And Ibiza.
Yeah. And then I kind of, at that moment, I built myself a temple, like my own place in a form of pigsty, with pebbles from the beach. And to make the pebbles on this beach for this wall to stand, I needed some bits of wood to make it stable. And I called this like Ibiza rocks. And it's the most beautiful thing I ever created with my hands. And this was the point where I found this piece of wood. So I was cutting off. I had to cut off like 100 trees in one day as part of the job. And then I needed wood for the wall. And then I found this, and I just took the skin off. I didn't want her to look like that. And I'm like, wow, she's an earth angel. And where her belly goes out in my belly. It's like, it was a part of me. And with this part, like this part of me, it took me on a journey, so to say. As I was like finishing off my temple, I made the floor with blue and white concrete. And I polished it, and this was my heaven on earth. And I got like, well, I wanted in Ibiza. And so this place I built, it was a former pigsty, and I called it Ibiza Rocks because of the pebbles from the beach. And as I was like finishing off the floor, my heaven on earth, I stopped eating, and after 7 days, things kind of started to flow. And I connected with Archangel Michael, and basically he told me they need me for peace, and all I have to do is like sacrifice my life and let them take care of the rest. And I'm like, all right. And the moment where I said like I sacrifice, this force came in that I had invited. Like I invited the force that keeps humanity from evolving into my temple. And the force came, and this was like the first night where kind of, well, I appeared to, it felt like I was dancing with the devil, so to say. Because I had constantly incense on and smoke, and I could see the spirit moving. And so this is during my vision quest, finishing the floor off, and then she kind of comes in, and the angels kind of let me see a future of peace. And I said I was going to give whatever it takes. So I called my friend, and I told him, can you bring your camera? You need to film my manifestation. So here is me manifesting my sacrifice, like in front of spirit. I'm like, all right, this is what I do. It's obviously I appear to be completely mad, but I take my whole place apart.
For real, what you see, what you experience, it's you. Don't let them tell you what you believe is knowledge. What you believe needs.
Oh, sorry, I don't know how this works. Oh, fuck. Sorry. Huh?
For real, what you see, what you
and it's all
experience, it's you. Don't let them tell you what you believe is knowledge. What you believe needs to be lived. See clear, please.
So what you believe needs to be lived to know.
All the greed.
This is the only way knowledge happens, by living it. And so here I was like ready to sacrifice my life. I was literally talking in tongues.
Fucking system with love, pure, clear-hearted, immaculate love. Let's rock. So this time enlightenment is going to come to you with attitude. Starring me.
So basically at that moment it felt like enlightenment, because my whole vessel was empty and I just fulfilled with my new soldier. And here's me saying like, yep, I'm ready to sacrifice my life. And all the main elements, like I didn't know, like with 5% and all these things. I had no idea.
That's just wondering what was going on.
Oh yeah.
Come on in.
Oh no, I'm cool. That's fine.
You just wanted to know what's going on here.
Oh,
Julian didn't tell
do you
you.
know how long I'll go for each?
Probably 9.
Okay, cool.
I think probably. I can't tell how long. I can't. It's just in the flow.
Okay.
Apologies. I'm
Okay.
sorry. So and then after I kind of like I took my whole place apart, and then like I'm being told to eat an egg, and like a raw egg, and that's kind of this. At that moment, I had no idea why I'm eating this egg, what's happening there. But that insight only came 3 weeks ago.
I'm gonna eat this egg raw, complete. I'm gonna swallow it like long. Because I know I should do it.
I wear alchemist t-shirt.
I never did this before, but I do it for you, and I do it with love. Egg before life, not alive. The protein we need to eat, not alive. Now it's telling me, eat me. I can feel it like, It's like a little sun in clear water space.
It's all
That's
the
what
color
it used to be,
pigments
something
that I
like
had
that.
like around.
Then it
That's
got
why
turned
it's so
around
red.
by the greed.
Raw egg with shell.
Mm. Mm.
The first thing I had eaten after 7 days.
Is it good?
It looks like it, no? But like on the whole, for the alchemical process, like what I was going through then, later. So at that moment, so this here is the Egyptian god Bes. Bes, he's the protector of the royal house of Egypt and protector of unborn life, and Ibiza is his island. And so essentially I was surrounded by like all the main ingredients of like ancient Egyptian magic, and I had no idea. And what I was doing at that moment, Isis, basically the divine feminine, she was born from an egg. And by eating this raw egg, I ingested the divine feminine. And then I had to take this divine feminine that I had like ingested, embodied, away from Lucifer and space. And funnily enough, at that moment I was playing in 2 clubs. One was called Lucifer and the other one was space. It's all a bit magic. And oh yeah, and I forgot to say, during my accident, when I had my near-death experience, a walk-in happened, so to say. That's when I do believe that's the moment when this spirit took over like my life or my course. But generally, like now when this spirit revealed himself to me, everything made completely sense, and he even wrote books and poems about this very moment that I'm going through, and it's where magic meets reality, where it becomes quite obvious. So here there's me having ingested the divine feminine, and then my friend went again, and I went back to like basically to be dancing with the devil, and it got even deeper. There's some of the kind of wood that looks like a was scepter. I have no idea what a was scepter is. Oh, and that's the poem. Basically during that vision quest, like nothing was done for the camera. It's as raw as it gets, and I think you can tell. It all started when I connected with this. And I don't know how to pause it. And this little bit of cement, there was a sign in stone, I put it in stone. I explain you. So the next morning, there was this footprint in the concrete, and it was like proper. I made it for myself, but there was also my footprint. And with my footprint, the concrete had kind of polarized. But Lucifer had left his footprint in the concrete, in my heaven on earth. It was proper like sunk in a way that's not possible. That floor was like a year old. I scraped the paint off to make it more, but because you couldn't really see the ridges here, but the ridges were there. And so basically, when with this footprint in there, for me, this was like a sign that actually what happened there was real. So constantly 3 incenses burning, complete smoky. I could see the spirit moving in the smoke, and I had some oil with like fluorescent color pigments, and I sprayed it around, and where that spirit was, the oil wouldn't hit the wall. And then 4 months later, a friend comes in and he goes like, "Oh, Reiki master, you opened an abyss. What happened here? What's under that couch?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a footprint of the devil." So,
Of the devil.
Well, Lucifer left his footprint there.
Yes.
Also Lucifer hat da seinen Fußabdruck hinterlassen,
Yeah.
um das halt. War ein Zeichen, dass er seinen Fußabdruck hinterlassen hat. Das andere Zeichen war, dass ein Reiki-Master ist reingekommen und der hat gesagt, du hast einen Abyss aufgemacht zur Unterwelt unter der Couch. Was ist unter der Couch? Dann habe ich die Couch weggenommen und da war der Fußabdruck. Und dann...
Warst du irgendwie verbunden mit Lucifer vom Kanal her? Konnte er dich anzapfen?
Ich war in einer Clubkultur. Ich war in einer Clubkultur, ich habe die Drogen genommen. Ja, before dem Sommer, ich habe in einem Club, I made parties in a club called Lucifer. I had my drum kit set up in front of a 3-meter high Lucifer. Ja, ich glaube schon, dass ich da irgendwie Konnektionen aufgebaut habe. But like what really puzzled me was that so once I was gone, they turned this whole place into a brothel. And they called it In Flagranti, with a big devil's head in neon signs that you could see from, it was right next to the airport. Yeah. It said In Flagranti with the devil's head on. Yeah. But these are just like things to make people that follow this story see that actually, something has happened there. And this is kind of where so I received this sign. So Archangel Michael during that vision quest,
Angel Michael,
Hmm?
this sign.
he gave me that.
Mhm.
On my name is Sven Krusel, and he added an E into my name, making it 7 Krusel, like 7K, and Krusel means oil lamp, so this sign represents an oil lamp with 7 flames. And so as you heard, so that was the moment when I received this sign by Archangel Michael. It was like this big orange kind of round thing that I was moving around. I set it in stone and like, yeah, alchemy. And then later I found out, because Spirit told me, they told me to let them take over my life, and I would just have to write everything down, and they would take care of the rest. And then like a few years later, I found out that probably a week after my vision quest, there was a band in the United States. They released an album. The band was called 7K, and the album was called Through the Windshield. And but the other thing was, so basically I called my place Ibiza Rocks. I was completely pink. Everybody knew what I did on the island. Well, I was quite known. And then the first live music party comes on the island, and they call it Ibiza Rocks. And all the artists, Faithless, The Cure, Prodigy, Kaiser Chiefs, they had all like bright pink faces. And
Bright pink?
Huh?
Bright pink faces?
Because my face was pink.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
pink face,
Your
Ibiza Rocks. And then the summer after that, they literally took the energies of that over. And now Ibiza Rocks is all over the world. It's a proper thing. And so, and it was from guys who kind of, from Manumission. Back in the days, it was the world's biggest party. And Mike Manumission, and so the same guys, that's kind of their poster. And in the background, I'm like, so they've got like a voodoo doll and an Egyptian pyramid with an all-seeing eye. And I'm like, now it's kind of literally like obvious, like with the whole Egyptian connection and all that stuff. But back then I didn't know, and it just felt like really weird. It felt like, well, it felt as if it was real. And then, so here's like a piece about so when the Egyptian gods had caught whether Seth or Horus should be on the throne of Egypt, they had to take this cord to a neutral space amongst the Mediterranean. Als die ägyptischen Götter Gericht hielten, ob Seth oder Horus auf dem Thron sein soll, haben sie einen neutralen Platz für das Gericht gebraucht. Und der Gott Bes hat Ibiza gefunden, hat alle schädlichen Pflanzen und Tiere beseitigt, um diesen neutralen Platz für die Götter zu machen, für den Gerichtshof der Götter. Und dann sind halt Karthago, die Nacht bevor die Kinder geopfert worden sind in die Kammer der Tanit gebracht worden. Und die Phönizier haben dann die Insel gefunden und haben die Göttin Tanit eingeführt. Und Leute mit Geld konnten sich die Rituale kaufen. So basically, are you reading what it says there? Huh? Yeah? Can you follow what I'm writing? So I don't have to double translate. If that works, as long as you can follow what's going on? Yeah? Awesome. Wow. Awesome. Ja, und essentially, das geht seit Generationen, seit tausenden Jahren. Und dann habe ich halt rausgefunden, dass die gesamte Ecstasy-related DJ-Culture diesen Teil von der Musik. And so I found out this is what I've seen, like when the Veils of Illusion fell. The Stones told me about the past of Ibiza, and they told me that the entire ecstasy-related DJ culture is a part of ancient Phoenician black magic. And the killing of the boys happens in the clubs, on drugs, on the street by drug driving, and at home by suicide. Suicide is the highest death rate. Most of them are boys. So this is how the boys are being killed. And the number of girls being raped in this environment, countless. Just because they feed them enough drugs. That's what they did with the temple priestesses. So that's my last gig at Space. At that time, it was like I was on the radio together with Carl Cox, live in 10 countries, while this happened, my last gig. So basically, wenn die Leute Ecstasy nehmen, da werden die Chakren aufgeblasen, artifiziell, und da gibt es dann die subliminalen Implante sozusagen. Also das erkennt man an dem Beat im Kopf, der nicht mehr weggeht. Und wenn die dann getriggert werden, dann bringen sich die Leute um. Und das ist wie die Magie von den Clubs funktioniert, essentially. Und dann auch mit der ganzen Musik, so when you make music, you receive from above and then you send it out. There's kind of one picture here that should be coming up right now. I only pressed like one button and you can literally see how the force that this music comes down. I think it should come in a minute. Yeah, and so basically this is the life that I left behind, my dream, and I had no idea. I don't know where we are. So basically, this is kind of the life in the clubs that I leave behind. And then, so once the decision was made, after this kind of, where I made the point, like that was on the 20th, from the 12th of December 2004, that was. So 12th of December 2004. And during my talking in tongues, I did say it's going to be an earth-shaking experience. And so at a certain point, the opposition, because they knew what I was doing, they came out, and so I know what it feels like to be cursed, essentially, with the big one, the one that makes people kill themselves. I pretended that I was on psychopharmaca, but I wasn't. I was still protected, but I saw and I heard them acting. And then I was in Germany, and I cut off all my hair and took my clothes, threw it in the river, and then I walked back to my sisters on salt. I've got no idea why, but apparently a friend who once upon a time tried to give me a book, she's like, oh, you did exactly what it says in the book. And then I had a bath, I went underwater, and like that they thought that I had committed suicide in the water. And I knew that they would know that I'm not dead by the moment that I'm gonna check in to fly back to Ibiza. And as I arrived on Ibiza, there was kind of big on the news with the waves, so the tsunami had just broken loose at the very moment when I checked in, and that felt kind of really, really strange. But that was so that was in the winter, and then I met this woman. So I only played the opening and the closing party to show them that I'm not completely mad. And in between, I worked as a carpenter. And then this woman, she's like, oh, she needed a yurt platform in her garden for like a yurt in the shape of a mandala. And when I told her the things that I had seen about Ibiza with the black magic, she's like, wow, now I know but I carry those crystals with me, we need to plant a Merkaba around Ibiza with crystals that we program. And I'm like, I've never heard anything about anything like that. So that's kind of the yurt platform that I made, and it's the Sri Yantra, basically, made out of wood, like working as a carpenter with a fish in the middle. Funnily enough, that's as far as I got. And it's basically all about the different gates of all the spiritualities leading to the same. We all come from the same. And for spirit to make a point, making a point, this is what I had to do. And these are the crystals that we used. So basically, we had a Star of David, and at the end of the Star of David, we planted those crystals that we had programmed. Also wir haben die Kristalle programmiert, ein Merkaba aus Licht zu kreieren. Und sind um die ganze Insel rum, also das waren dicke Brocken, ganz große Kristalle. Und dann ein Tag, nachdem wir das aktiviert haben, haben sie einen Kokainring aufblasen lassen. 1500 Kilo Kokain, mehr als 1 Million in Cash. Und die haben auch die magische Frau, also the magic woman that supported the cocaine ring for the rest of his life. And never before have I heard kind of. Ich habe noch nie vorher, noch nie nachher, habe ich in der Zeitung gelesen, dass sie die Magierin, die den, was auch immer das war, Kokainring betreut hat, auch verhaftet worden ist. Also, so, now timeline, it's the end. I played in the clubs and I did all these things, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna leave this life here behind. And oh no, hang on. I don't know how to put it on pause. So basically, this is all that I took with me. When I built my temple, I promised the stones that I bring them back when I don't need them anymore. So when I left, I brought all the stones back to the beach. But I also, I basically left with her and nothing else. Not before I destroyed Lucifer's footprint, but so I brought the most beautiful thing I ever created with my hands back to the beach. And left my dream as a percussionist behind, because Spirit told me. And I thought that was all I had to do. And then ich habe seit ich weg bin, nee. Marihuana, ja. Marihuana, ja. Aber das Marihuana, als ich den Tempel gebaut habe, da ist eine Pflanze ist ohne mein Zutun gewachsen. Die Pflanze am Ende war so groß, 7 verschiedene Sorten. Das war eine Pflanze, die noch nie jemand gesehen hat. Das ist ein Teil von der ganzen Evolution, und für mich ist das ich rauche keinen Scheiß. Es ist alles mit der Energie, und ich tue der Pflanze Liebe geben, und dann kommt die Liebe wieder zurück. And so for me, at that moment, like, it felt like enlightenment, and it's all like, with him, and that's how I kind of felt like, oh yeah, this is what happened, because I got completely fulfilled with my new soul purpose. And then left all that behind, and my twin soul. So after we had planted that Merkaba around Ibiza, she said like, oh, we need to plant another Merkaba around the Glastonbury tour. And I'm like, huh? Glastonbury? And she had a deal with a Red Spring, with Chaliswell, that she's got to bring me. She was looking for me for like 2 or 3 years, she said. And that's why we had to plant another Merkaba around Glastonbury tour. So she brought me to Avalon in the very first place. So the woman that got me to build the mandala, we put the Merkaba around Ibiza, and then she said we need to put another Merkaba around Glastonbury tour. I had never heard of Glastonbury tour. I had no idea. What do I know? And so this is kind of the moment of me arriving in Avalon, past Avebury. And yeah, with these things, there is only one way to find out. You need to do it, no?
Yes.
Ja, also wir sind dann nach Glastonbury, haben da eine Merkaba um den Turm rum gepflanzt. Und das war mein Einstieg in Avalon. Pure Magie. Aber ich sehe, dass das halt ein bisschen... So basically, essentially, the speed of kind of, I do kind of finish it off a bit, because it drags out in between. So now, this is how I came to Avalon on the 11/11/2005. We planted a Merkaba around Glastonbury tour. And then I was back in Germany. I had like a small flat in Germany. And because Spirit told me to write a book, so I got myself a laptop. But instead of writing the book, I could see that I can make the pictures move. And I made this movie. So all that you've seen just now was a movie that I made 20 years ago in Germany. And essentially, to clear this music, I came back to Avalon, originally for a week. Also ich wollte nur eine Woche nach Avalon kommen, um die Musikrechte abzuklären dafür. But then I somehow ended up here and living here. But living here in a place, it was a distribution of changing world music. And this guy, at the same time, while I was like going on this vision quest, at the same time he wrote a book, Glastonbury Grail, Light of the World. So at the same time, while I was doing this, he channeled all these things and like got into the whole Grail mythos. His name is David Hatfield, and he's known for like the leading expert with like Glastonbury Grail, because he lives and thinks Grail, to the point where he's even got a roundhouse that's a replica of the very first church that was in the Abbey grounds, with a thatched roof. And that's where she ended up. Like, and how, I've got no idea, but more to that later. So I lived a happy life for like 15 years or something, till the lockdown came. And that's when I started to play drums in the tower. And like, as a daily exercise. Oh yeah, this is my daily exercise. I'm just playing drums in the tower. And that's how kind of we anchored the energies in that tower. And at a certain point, I went up there in the tower to to activate the Merkaba that I had kind of planted 15 years ago. So that Merkaba that I planted back in 2005, I went in the tower with like the clear intentions, I'm gonna channel the energies, and with the vibrating walls I make the Merkaba activate again. And I accidentally, I just put the phone somewhere and I recorded a whole album. And this album I called Merkaba Activation. It was just like random musicians, people that never made music, create music together in the tower, like it always happens in the tower. And I think, yeah. So what you hear now is the drum in the tower. Did you hear that? So I haven't, so the phone was kind of, it wasn't plugged in. I had it on airplane mode. In my book, this was the electric pulse when the Merkaba got activated. And on that very day, that picture with like the comet on top, the comet Neowise was around in 2020. And then the next time I went in the tower, like in theory, I had just heard like, wow, so we just the Merkaba activated, and next time I went in, I kind of thought like, wow, now it's like we activated the light body of Glastonbury Tor, like essentially, because I could even hear it on the recordings. And then somebody took this picture, and while I was in the tower playing drums, and I know exactly the moment because of this guy with a torch. So I knew, like, and turns out that this was a 15-minute track. A 15-minute, and I get your freedom wings ready. That's kind of the name of it, because that was what kind of was in there. And then Archangel Michael, he kind of instructed me to, out of those 15 minutes, extract everything, like extract the reverberations of the tower, so the energy that went into the earth at that moment while the comet Neowise was there. Little did I know back then that the comets carry information in their trails to activate our DNA. And this information comes down in honeycomb shape. Also die Kometen in ihrem Schweif haben die Information, die unsere DNA aktiviert. Und diese Information kommt in Honigbienenwaben. Und wenn man sich jetzt einen Star of David, einen Davidstern anguckt, in der Mitte ist eine Honigwabe. Und die ersten Christen, die auf den Jesus gewartet haben, die haben mit so einem Zeichen meditiert, wo in der Mitte ein Davidstern war mit einer Honigwabe in der Mitte. Und essentially mit dem Stern von Bethlehem, der war nicht über einer Hütte. Das war der die Jungs aktiviert hat, um zusammenzufinden, um den zu finden. So funktioniert es. So basically with the comets in their trails, they carry information to activate our DNA. And this information comes down in honeycomb shape. And so when people that meditate with the Star of David, like consciously, this is how the earliest Christians, they meditated with the Star of Hope, oil lamp with 7 flames, Star of David and a fish. And this is how they got activated to find baby Jesus. It wasn't like, there was a Star of Bethlehem over the hut and then they went to the hut. This Star of Bethlehem activated their DNA so that they would be there at that moment. And the same thing is happening right now with all those comets. And so I was guided by Archangel Michael to extract only the reverberations that the tower makes. While by filtering everything 77 hertz and below out of the recordings. And also, so out of those 15 minutes, I went into a studio, like Rockstar Studio. and like literally Rockstar Studio. He did it for 40 years. He did like 2 albums for Judas Priest. Like, if anybody knows, heard Judas Priest, like, he kind of remixed the whole thing, or remixed, yeah, first he mastered my albums from the tower, and he said, don't tell anyone that you recorded that with a phone, because the quality and everything was really good. Then I asked him, like, look, can you take everything 77 hertz and below out of the recordings, like that I only have the sound of the walls of the tower? He did. And like, he never heard, he was like, nobody's ever done anything like that. In like 40 years, nobody has extracted the sound of walls. But it sounds really good because of the bass, like, you can literally, everything jiggles. And then not only the 77 hertz, but also out of the same recordings, the solfeggio frequencies. So they've all got different healing properties. And yeah, so that was kind of like the key. And now this is one of the videos like where with like I'm quite fond of the music and everything. Now you will hear the principle of like the drums, the solfeggio frequencies, and the frequencies of the tower. In the timeline, this is November, December 2020. That's kind of, so I had activated the Merkaba 20th of July 2020, and then I was told like on a complete, I was completely remote controlled, also komplett ferngesteuert. Michael, oh, geh ins Studio, ja, du kriegst einen speziellen Preis, ja, kostet dich nur 60 Pfund, ja, Judas Priest, ja. Und ich habe alles, was ich dafür gebraucht habe ich gekriegt. Also es hat mir an nichts gemangelt. Und dann, für den Bass ist das halt schon schön, okay? Und so, I'm gonna be quiet. It's like a six minute music video, and it's like so kann man sich das anhören und spüren. Und unter Umständen, wenn es zu langweilig ist, dann kann ich auch weiterklicken. But that's
the upper frequencies are away.
Huh?
The upper frequencies.
In dem jetzt hier habe ich weil das war eine Evolution. Ich bin da reingegangen, ich habe dem sagen müssen, also jetzt tu mir nur diese eine Frequenz raus. Und er hat, nee, nicht einfach. Ich habe gesehen, dass er in seinem Programm kann er die Frequenzen irgendwie nur die einzelne Frequenz anwählen. Aber der kann die nur anwählen, um die auszulöschen. Jetzt habe ich ihm aber gesagt, wähl mir die eine Frequenz an und tu das aufnehmen. Dann hat er seine Kompanie angerufen, die das Programm gemacht hat. Und die, ja, also, nee, das kann das Programm nicht. Du musst das gedrückt halten. Da haben wir mit einer Milchkarton haben wir auf die Maus legen müssen, um das aufzunehmen. In dem Video sind jetzt nur 369, 639 und 963 drin. Hast du das irgendwo gespeichert auf Spotify oder so? Nein, oder? Ich habe das auf Bandcamp und auf YouTube. Das ist alles auf YouTube free available. Und so, ja. Oh no.
Also welche Frequenzen hast du jetzt?
Alle.
Alle?
Alle drei, das ist irgendwie Mathematik.
Houston, wir haben ein kleines Problem, aber nur ein kleines.
Oh, Entschuldigung, warum bin ich isoliert?
Weißt du was?
Alles gut. Das ist das schön.
Seid ihr warm genug?
Ja,
Ja, ja.
das ist perfekt.
Ja, voll.
Perfekt ist mal. Are you warm enough? Yeah? Comfy, not too boring yet?
Not boring.
If anyone wants
Well,
out,
has tiny
you
little
can out.
hair-like extensions all around it. When
Nein. Da muss man das schon schön vom Anfang anfangen. I present to you Nearwise meets Salvecchio. I think one of the best videos I made. ist alles genauso, wie es im Turm passiert ist, basically.
Welche Frequenz spielst du da im Turm?
Ich spiele nur meine Trommel.
Ja,
Also das Getrommele
ja.
und das jetzt, alle die Frequenzen, die du jetzt hörst, werden in demselben Moment erzeugt.
Ja, okay.
Und ich habe das dann nur rausgefiltert. Also den Bass, das ist der Bass, der von den Wänden gemacht wird. Und die Solfeggio Frequencies. Und die habe ich dann, jetzt in dem Moment habe ich die so zusammengemixt, weil das ist, also das ist eine Welt, die sich öffnet. It's our world that opens there with like music and beyond. And so basically, then at that time, this was I was told to create that pacemaker. The only possibility for me to create that pacemaker at that moment, because it was lockdown and everything, was they told me literally I had to release. So I released those tracks. I released every weekend on the 13, 14, 21, 22, 21, 29, 30 to create the pacemaker. I released the tracks at certain times on Spotify. I went through so first, every weekend I released 3 tracks from what I had in the tower. The first one at the same time all around the world to give a pulse. Then the next one in a chain, like walking with the hour, kind of like 7:07 now, 7:07 there, 7 past, like that, a whole chain around the planet, and then again a pulse. I went absolutely how on earth I did that? Have you ever tried to release one track on Spotify with all the covers that you need to make, all the and then I did everything that they asked me to do, and then it was the 21, the 21st for solstice on the 21st, massive in December 2020. It was the big one where a constellation of that was the last time when Jesus kind of was around. They called it a morning star constellation. Mm-hmm. And it was on that day that they told me, well, you need to anchor her in front of the tower. She needs to be up there on the 30th of December 2020. And I'm like, really? But I can't do this myself. And I went just ask and you will be helped. And I met 7 random strangers in the tower on the 22nd in the morning. I came back and in the night I got the orders, and then I went back in the tower and I'm like, look guys, I need to put up the Church of Babylon is fallen with my Buddha nature. I need to anchor my Buddha nature representing the Divine Feminine in front of the tower with my tent. I've got a tarp and I've got fence posts, but I can't do it alone, I need help. And they were like, oh, no worries, we come and help you. And I'm like, but it's locked down and I'm really bad with the police. And they were like, oh, no worries, we help you. And then I put out the tent. So those fence posts, they were like 3.5 meters tall, also richtig fence posts. To whack them in the middle of the night at like 3 o'clock with the fence up, poof, poof. The sound, it was locked down, no car, nothing around. And when I made the floor shake like that, I knew that the last time that something like that probably happened around here was when they put up the gallows for Richard Whiting. Also das letzte Mal, als das Erdreich vom Turm mit so einer, mit Pfahlen, die in die Erde gerammt werden, es ist gut möglich, dass das letzte Mal, dass das vorher passiert ist, war, als die Galgen für den Richard Whiting aufgebaut haben. And you know about Richard Whiting, what they did up there with him?
No.
Ne? Also, you know about Richard Whiting, no? I just explained it in German.
Yeah, of course.
Also mit Richard Whiting, das war der Abt von der Glastonbury Abbey. Und der König Henry VIII., der hat die Abbey zerstört und die haben den da oben hingerichtet mit zwei von seinen Pfarrern oder was auch immer. Und das war schwarze Magie von der Krone. Die haben die Abbey komplett zerstört und haben die Oberhäupter von den Kirchen da oben auf dem Turm gehängt und gevierteilt.
Am Turm oben.
Ja. Und dann haben sie den Kopf und die anderen Teile in verschiedenen Plätzen in Kirchen öffentlich hingehängt.
Wie lange ist
Und,
das
1530 oder irgend sowas. Und das war für mich war das immer Black Magic von der Krone. Und später habe ich dann rausgefunden, warum ich das alles mache und mit der ganzen. Das war der Moment, wo die englische Krone Kopf von der Kirche geworden ist. Anyway, back to this timeline. So when I hit those fences in, it felt like this was the last time, like probably when they put up those gallows. Then I took a picture of it, the first picture that I took. I'm like, wow, the camera must have jiggled. So I'm like, oh, it's a pillar of fire. That's really funny. And then, there she was on the 30th of, like just in time, just before sunset. Pure magic. Pure magic. In lockdown.
Cool.
Und das ist dann halt schon, also, dann ist da, ich habe das Fenster, das ist das Fenster von Ibiza Rocks in meinem Tempel, den ich kaputt gemacht habe. Der Tempel, der da von Ibiza, it had like, so this is the window. This is the window from Ibiza Rocks. It's part of my shrine. And I had to take that with me because of the fish. I had no idea, and it wasn't even supposed to be fish. It was only paint that I couldn't be asked to like scrape fully off, and then I realized like, oh, it's a fish, so I left that on there. And very significant at a later point I would know. But so basically I brought this up there. It was pure magic. Lockdown, and all of a sudden those tents arrived there. For the 1st of January, I come up. I bring this window up because I thought like, oh, that needs to be there. And then at the same time, on the same day, somebody brings those cookies up in like window form. So huh? And like it felt like, well, we treated it as like die Obladen. Also wenn man dann das I literally on the 1st of On the 1st of January 2021, I gave this out as what's the name for it?
What, the bread and the wine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a Eucharist.
I'm not quite. I don't think it's that.
Isn't it? The Holy
I gave people. I asked people, "Are you ready to see the truth, which will set us free?" And when yep, and I'm like, "There you go." And they were like, "Whoa!" Because for me, this was kind of. So I set an example with that church, and I called it the Church of Babylon is Fallen 2020. This is what I was told to do. Like, yep, do this, and I'm like, but I can't. It's not and. This is what it looked like on the 31st of December, like during lockdown. He is the guy that told me, "Oh, don't worry about it, I deal with the police." She is literally a policewoman, so that's kind of assumed. That's the original picture is just those two on the horizon, him going like, "Yeah, but you can't," and she's up on the door with her face mask. and how this thing stayed up there for 12 days, that's a miracle in itself. And not only for the authorities, but also for the weather conditions. A miracle. It was like, yeah, anchoring peace in Avalon. Yay! I even had like, so this is David Hatfield. He's the author of like the Glastonbury Great Light of the World, and they came at a very significant point there. So I had like I think 6 wise men in the tent at a certain point. And I would also like to point out at that moment, when the Guardians had left, and for the last kind of few days, I didn't want to leave her in, but so there was like a big trunk of like hawthorn that had showed up there. I don't know where, but it was like there, and I used that as the center pillar for the Church of Babylon is Fallen. And then so the Church of Babylon is Fallen, it had, after 12 days, I thought like, okay, it's done now. I need to take it down. I walked up there and somebody stole it. Well, which is like fair enough. I was quite, literally, I was very surprised that it lasted that long. There were obviously, there were obviously people who hated that, who absolutely, and you could see these tents up on the Tor from everywhere.
Yeah, it was a little camp, wasn't it?
Whoever I asked, like, oh, have you been around during lockdown? And they're like, yeah. Do you remember the tents up the Tor? And they're like, yeah. Everybody remembers those tents. And then I'm like, wow, so what was that all about? I did feel a little, because I had like this message with the pacemaker for our Mother Earth and da-da-da-da. I did feel a little bit like Moses coming from a mountain and like this, that, da-da. And then I found this. Do you see how this looks quite similar to the other tent, yeah? And that's a replica of Moses' Tabernakel. Also der Moses, der hat eine Tabernakel gehabt. Ich habe das nicht gewusst, dass der eine Tabernakel gehabt hat. Eine mobile Kirche sozusagen. Und die hat genau so ausgesehen. Und dann habe ich da mal ein bisschen näher reingeguckt in Moses' Tabernakel. So, the Tabernacle of Moses. Das hat 3 Bereiche. The forecourt, the outer courtyard with a lava, round copper thingy, and the square fire dish for sacrifice. In the holy place, it's got a table of shewbread. Oh, the bread that had arrived. It has a menorah. I'm like, what's a menorah? Oh, menorah is an oil lamp with 7 flames. Eine Öllampe mit 7 Flammen. Und zu dem Zeitpunkt habe ich nur das Zeichen gehabt, aber das war da reingeritzt. Für mich war das genug. Okay, wow, eine Öllampe mit 7 Flammen. Ein Altar auf Incense. Check. Also die ganzen Dinger waren in dem, wenn ich das dann als 3 Bereiche gesehen habe, ich habe den Outer Courtyard, ich habe im Holy Place. Im Holy Place ist auch noch das Staff of Aaron, ein Staff mit ihr, das check, war für mich gut genug. Und das macht dann den Holy of Holies, ist der Bereich, der heiligste Bereich. In dem Setup wäre das der Turm, der Tower. Und es war, während ich da oben war, habe ich den Auftrag gekriegt, also 7000 von den Pacemakern und es ist Frieden. Das ist mein Deal. Und ich so, ja, okay. Und dann sehe ich halt, zuerst habe ich das dann halt vermittelt gekriegt. So first they told me, this is your covenant. You need to create a pacemaker for our Mother Earth. 7,000 of them and they will turn into one peacemaker. I'm like, all right. And then I looked at the details. So the outer in the forecourt, I was really like, huh. And they even say that this one needs to be from copper. And I'm like, oh wow. Copper, lava, and a square fire dish. That's really... And then at a certain point, so the people, they would find the tabernacle because there was a pillar of fire from the holy place. I'm like, oh, a pillar of fire. How interesting. But yeah, so far so good. And like, didn't think any more of it. Just kept going, like religiously playing my drums in the tower. And then for the 1 year anniversary of like recording, this recording, I cut myself in the finger. I cut myself in the hand. I gave like, always be careful who you hug. Immer schön aufpassen, wen man dann so drückt. Because sometimes like the energies that come might not be the most pleasant ones. And like a few days before that, 2 days to be precise, somebody hugged me and he was like completely off and he was like, oh, that felt really good. And I'm like, what was that? Yeah. And then 2 days later, slank with a Stanley knife. Proper. So I'm like, and then I go into hospital and the nurse that stitches me together, I tell her, oh, the last time in hospital, like I went through a window with my face and I got put together with more than 100 stitches. And then the nurse goes like, oh, I had an accident just like that. I had like 98 stitches and my eyelids were cut off. And I'm like, wow, my eyelids were cut off as well. And I'm like, huh? So the first person I ever met to have the same facial injuries stitches me together during the 1 year anniversary of that. And I would play every full moon. Now, the stitches, I had 7 stitches inside, well, 7, and 13 on the outside. So 1 stitch for every full moon. Like, and I'm like, wow, awesome. And I will still be able to play. And then this whole thing took another kind of, it went deeper. So I had to take the sensation of the tower down into the churches. And this is when I was told to create this musical drone with only the vibrations, like 7 different heartbeats, 7 different rhythms, together with solfeggio frequencies. And we would use that in churches to make music without words or song structure, to anchor the light that you receive through music into the planetary grid, because the churches are all built. So I did it like in St. Benedict's Church, I did it in the Magdalene Chapel, I did it all over the place. And at that time, so at the beginning of the ceremonies, we hold hands and we do 3 ohms, like om, 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 and the lions roar, like, ah! And with that lions roar, we clear our vessel to become vessels for the light. After that, we don't speak anymore, and we just, an hour and a half, just vibrations, frequencies, and music without words. Everybody joins in with their instrument, with their voices, with their whatever they've got. And at that moment, so we just had started with a wah, and then this comet shows up, and like comet Leonardo, and that's the comet Leonardo. And I'm like, wow, what a coincidence. We do the Lion's Roar, and with the comet Neowise, and then there's a comet Leonardo, and like, oh, how peculiar. And then, so after that, I did like 7 Sundays in a row with the vibrations, and then I was told to anchor her where the holy thorn was like chopped off. So this was where the holy thorn was chopped off. I had to anchor her for 24 hours, 5th and 6th of January, cold. But like vigil held, stayed with her, mission accomplished, and then the war in the Ukraine started. And so we focused on the Ukraine and sending vibrations of peace to the Ukraine. And then this was my job at the time. I was a carpenter and I made like yurts. So this is what I did, made from plywood, like proper. This was my job, and I was told, oh yeah, so Easter Sunday you're gonna get your Easter Sunday at the Abbey House. I was told to let go of my life as a carpenter yet again, because so this sign that I had around my neck, you saw that woman that sat in the tent earlier. She's a potter. She makes clay, and she said she was going to make me one day. She's going to make me 2 oil lamps, an oil lamp with 7 flames. And in the Abbey House on that day, this is where she gives me like 2 oil lamps. So this was the moment when the sign that I had received from Archangel Michael turned into 2 oil lamps, and I was told to let go of my job and go to Kiev, to the Ukraine during war, to light one of those oil lamps with the 7 flames at Michael's Golden Dome Monastery. And then did a fundraiser, because I was told to like not work anymore and ask for help. Like the moment of like, okay, now this is all I do. So did like a fundraiser, and the lamp was lit for the very first time with Glastonbury's Unity Flame. And that was the poster for one of those gigs. And here I'd like to point out that I put the cross of Michael's Golden Dome Monastery right in her heart, because I thought it's a nice place for it. And then, so that the ceremony, first time lit with a Unity Flame, and then during the May Parade I was a part of it. And then we had like raised enough money for a flight into Poland and a one-way ticket on a train. So bonkers. And I had to be there on the 8th of May. And because it's the Archangel Michael kind of celebratory day in Kiev. Going into a war zone like that, I even wear like green clothes. That's just we made it there on the 8th of May. The clock struck 7 as we walked over in there. And I arrived there with this oil lamp. And I, well, first, all the way, like, people go like, what are you doing here? This country is at war. Well, Mikhail told us to come here. And like, Mikhail. So in the church, because, so basically it's an Orthodox church. And this guy, he looked at my oil lamp and he's like, it's got a Star of David, it's got an and it's got this sign. Which sect are you from? I'm like, Mikhail, like English, like they don't speak English too good. Like I'm like, oh, Mikhail, he sent us here. And he was like, nah, I mean, I don't know. And then his boss whisked him behind closed doors. And then we're like, well, it's either yes or no. And then he came out, he gave us 3 candles, and they left us alone in there. Like they left us in there, all alone. to do this, to light the flames in the Golden Dome Monastery of Archangel Michael. And that's quite something. And also, like, I play drums in all the sacred places there. Man on a mission, total. And how they let me in there. Later, I saw, like, at some point, President Biden was visiting Ukraine, and I saw a picture of Biden in that monastery with 2 guys. And I'm like, oh, wow. That's the guy that gave us the candles, and that's the guy who called him behind closed doors. And then I read up, and it said, like, President Biden with a metropolitan of the Ukrainian church. So the highest of the highest told Matey to let me do that. And then around the church, so, like, at the back entrance, they've got 7 segments where they have, like, just the raw. So and I'm like, guys, really? That's really strange. And then I walk to the front. In front of the Golden Dome Monastery, I found this. The same size. Bends the head in the same direction, the same kind of irregularity in the arms. If you go in the woods and find a tree that looks like that, you've got quite a task on your hand. But, like, and that's this is because, like, that's the whole kind of that walk-in spirit, that spirit that walked in and made me do all these things. He's got all the connections, like, literally, because it was him who made me cut these things off like that. I didn't even mean to make it look like that. I just, like, took the skin off and it looked like that. And then to be sent to Kiev during war to light my sole purpose, basically, in the Golden Dome Monastery dedicated to Archangel Michael, and only to find her. And then, the details. I mean, like, it's all in the details. And then you could kind of say that that's a cross kind of in the breast of that archangel. It's a bit obvious, I think. No, can you see what I mean? Yeah? And then I came back and it all went, like, a little bit deeper even. And then I found on a picture from Iona, I found this stone, like a sign of a stone, and, like, oh, there's a triskel down there, and I'm like, oh, there's a triskel down there. And there's, like, so that's representing Archangel Michael, probably, an oil lamp with 7 flames, the Star of David, and a fish. And I'm like, oh, how peculiar. I've got an oil lamp with 7 flames. I've got a window representing the fish, like representing the Aquarian age. And I've got a Star of David. Like, that's where she stands in. And that's the window, like, with the fish. So well, let's say this spirit that walked in that makes me do all these thingies, he, like, obviously, like, knew about that. I mean, So there's again, like, with the Star of David and the fish and the oil lamp with the 7 flames. And then in the Magdalene Chapel, I asked my daughter to draw me this, which is called the Star of Hope, and with the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. So my daughter adapted it for this moment, and somewhere I read that, like, oh, hang that on the door. So I hung it on the door in the Magdalene Chapel for, like, the moment when I realized that. Soll ich zwischendurch ein bisschen mehr auf Deutsch übersetzen, oder ist das
Jetzt
okay?
alles klar.
Now this is where it goes, like, so this is a painting. That woman, it's a little bit right. So basically, you've seen the painting just now, and Let's go back. So I invited the woman that made the oil lamps to my place to have a look at the shrine where the oil lamps are, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm on my way." She walks in Glastonbury past a house, and she starts chatting to a woman that she never chatted to, and then they chat, and she's like, "Oh, I just got to go and see my friend Sven," and that woman goes like, "Oh, Sven, would you mind? We had this painting behind our couch for like 10, 15 years. And we cleaned up today, and 2 hours ago, we took this painting from behind the couch and we looked at it and we thought like, this painting wants to find its owner. We've got no idea whom that belongs. All we know is he's a guy called Sven. Would you mind having a look to see if that painting might be that guy called Sven?" And she looks at the painting and she goes like, "Yep, that's it." So she's on her way to have a look at her shrine. And then a woman where the painting told her like, "Oh, I want to come back to my owner." And then it's a, "Huh? I beg your pardon?" So she sends a picture and sends it to me, and she's like, "Oh, and I don't know, but this thing showed up. It says Honor 7. And I'm like, and I can't get it away. It's my watermark. And I'm like, this is really strange. And then came the coronation, the coronation parade in England. It was something big with Queen Victoria and the Jubilee, the Queen's Jubilee. They had they made a parade up the Tor where they lit the beacon, and I had to ask the mayor if she can be a part of the parade. And the mayor agreed. He's like the mayor of Glastonbury, and That's me. And up there, they were singing New Jerusalem, like "Bring me my chariot of fire, bring me my arrows of desire." It's like the national anthem of what's it called? Of Avalon. It's called New Jerusalem. And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountains green? And they sang that up there while they lit the thing. And then this woman comes up to me, because I hadn't picked up the painting yet. This woman comes up to me and she hands me on this note. She wrote her address and she's like, "Can you please pick up your painting?" And I'm like, okay. And then there were 3 parades. One of the parades was down in the abbey in the crypt. And normally you're not allowed to do anything down there. Like, you're not even allowed to burn incense or anything. And I asked the unity flame, the sovereignty flame, and the bridges flame probably, if we can do a ceremony there, while they had the celebration up there with orchestra and everything. And so basically while we were there, we did our thing. And in the background, can you hear the band? So in the background, I'm like, are they playing 007? Really? Yeah, it is 007. It's the 007 theme. While we sneak away from the whole party to do undercover our ceremony there. After that, 7 of us around doing 3 ohms in Alliance Raw, and then the security found us and chucked us out again. And we're like, thank you, we did what we had to do. And then I found out that, so this is a oil lamp with 3 flames that I had. And I realized that I can make that an oil lamp with 7 flames. I just need to put a triskel in the middle, and I've got 3 oil lamps with 7 flames. And I'm like, wow, I can stack them on top of each other. And I'm like, oh, it's like a chariot of fire. And when I brought this oil lamp for the first time, I found out that I can carry the flames in a paper bag. I brought that lit from my temple, drove it to Glastonbury in the van, and brought it up on Weary Hill. And there was a massive rainbow, and we were like, oh, so pretty. And then I kind of, oh no, we don't want that. I ended up finally doing a party in like not a party, a celebration in St. John's Church, Glastonbury's biggest church. It took me like a year to get in there, but like I did. And then on the same evening, while we did like the St. Michael's celebrations in St. John's Church in Shepton Mallet, there was a guy called Sieben giving a concert, and and in West Cathedral it was like, oh, vibration and frequencies. At the same time, while I did that there, and I thought that was quite a little bit on the remarkable side. This is St. John's Church with the vicar and everything, and this is, it's only 2 minutes 43, but this is what it sounds like and looks like in the churches. And so that's in St. John's Church. You can hear the heartbeat and obviously me with the drum. But it's also the lights. It's like the chariot of fire. So this whole chariot of fire thing, because I didn't know, oh, chariot of fire, this thing, it looks like a chariot of fire. Then I googled chariot of fire. And apparently chariot of fire comes from Elijah. Did you know? Have you ever heard of Elijah? Ich hab noch nie was vom Elijah gehört. Aber ich habe halt nachgelesen, oh, das ist einer von den Propheten oder irgend sowas. Und der hat einen Chariot of Fire gehabt. Der ist mit dem Chariot of Fire in den Himmel mitgenommen worden. Und der ist von einer juniper with an angelic presence. He was protected by a juniper with an angelic presence. And I'm like, oh, I've got a Phoenician juniper, I've got a juniper with an angelic presence, and I've got a chariot of fire. When I told that to the priest at that thing, he just said like, I'm like, look, I've got a chariot of fire just like Elijah. I've got a juniper with an angelic presence just like Elijah. And then he just goes like, oh yeah, and did you know that Jesus called St. John the Baptist Elijah? And I'm like, no, mind boggled. And then after this event in the church, people kind of complained because the church was literally buzzing the next day. It was still buzzing. But somebody took pictures of it, sent it to the bishop, and the bishop asked the vicar, what's going on in your church? And the vicar said, can you stop this now? So I was banned from doing the vibrations in the churches. But then, like, just with the comets, on the 14th of July, there was another comet closest to Earth by the name K2. So I obviously thought comet 7K would have been much nicer. So I looked up its full name, and that was C 2017, like 17K2. And then I googled comet 7K just for giggles, and the comet Neowise comes up because it's coming around every 7,000 years. And there again, like yet another one of those comet kind of thingy constellation things. Then the Queen died. The Queen, like, so during the Queen's Jubilee, we were, you remember when we did it, literally when I uploaded this moment, the moment that I uploaded this video on YouTube was the moment when the Queen died. Bonkers. And the last church, I told you about the last yurt that I ever built. This yurt went up in the field that belongs to my landlord. And then in this church we did sign kind of, oh, the Queen has died, let's all get together in this yurt. In the last yurt that I ever built, that as if by magic turns up in the field of my landlord, which is called the Jubilee Woods, and it's called the Unicorn Healing Field. So it's called Jubilee Woods in the Unicorn Healing Field, and it's the Queen's Jubilee Woods. Like it was gifted to the family as part of another Queen's Jubilee, But the unicorn healing field, when the Queen died, because she died in Scotland, it was called Operation Unicorn. So to end up with my last yard in this field was like bonkers. So I was told to go on pilgrimage to Skellig Michael to anchor the energies there. Then they planted a new holy thorn at the information center. I took her there. Here's the mayor. And there they handed out little bits of the old hawthorn that they had cut off like 12 years ago. And I got a little bit with a thorn on. So we did a ceremony in the yard, and I was told to transfer the magic of the holy thorn from the crown back into her. So I poked the thorn in here, and then I burned the rest on the oil lamp. So the ashes of these magical powers are on the oil lamp. And then we went on a pilgrimage to Ireland to bring the magic back to the land, because the English crown had stolen the magic from the Irish people. Went to Skellig Michael, planted a crystal there. It's all to do with the Sword of Michael, activating the Sword of Michael. And then planted a crystal there from the same batch of crystals. 2 days after we had planted it in Skellig Michael, somebody planted from the same batch in Jerusalem. One crystal behind the Wailing Wall and another crystal on the head of the Church of the Holy Mother, where Jesus was born, in the most holy places. And then the next day, like this woman in South Africa, she kind of goes like, oh, all the crystal pyramids under Jerusalem have been activated, and da 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 da. And we're like, how peculiar. Then I'm arriving on a beach, my tooth falls out, and it didn't hurt. I get out and is it the end of my journey because I haven't got any money for the dentist? No, it wasn't. It didn't hurt. I get out and I find this sign of a monk with a tooth in his hand. And I'm like, oh, I lost my tooth on the same beach where St. Patrick lost his tooth. Auge um Auge, Zahn um Zahn. St. Patrick, he was an instrument to rob the magic of the Irish. For me to lose my tooth on that beach, bonkers. Then, as I went, just before I left, somebody from this group of the Holy Thorn, I told her that I did the ceremony, breaking off the twig, burning it on the lamp. She's like, oh, can I give you another bit of that Holy Thorn? I've just got some in my pocket. So I take it to Ireland, and you will know where to burn it. And I'm like, obviously. So that's the beach, that's the church, the ruin of the church where he brought his tooth after he lost it. And it's got like, it's like, are you having a laugh, guys? If I've ever seen a face in a wall, that's the face in the wall. So I did another ceremony there with her, stick, another thorn, injected all the holy ingredients of it. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, that's a pretty picture. So, and at the same time, I found out that, like, about my Buddhist lineage, the Kachu lineage was founded by a bodhisattva with a lion's roar. And I'm like, and just like going back to the whole Buddhist kind of part, when I forgot it because I didn't kind of make an extra note. So I came to England. I wrote a book about my vision quest, like made the movie, and I needed to know if I may call this moment of like realization when the veils of illusion fell, if I may call it my enlightenment. And the only person who can tell me if I may has to be my teacher, no? And so I went to see him in Germany, and I asked him, like I told him all the things that I've seen, and I asked him, look, I'm making a movie, I need to know from you if I may call the experience that I had there my enlightenment. Was that my enlightenment? May I call it that? And he said, like, yes, of course you may. I will pray for you. Do you need help with your movie? And I'm like, nah, I just need to know from you if I may call it that. And he went like, yay. So he confirmed that I am a bodhisattva. And little did I know that I am a bodhisattva with a lion's roar. It's just like, he confirmed that I'm somebody that came back to help humanity, like, evolve. For the whole Buddhist kind of thing with Kachu lineage, it's only oral transmission. So for who he is, he's the second highest of the Kachur lineage, and him and the Karmapa and Shamapa, they always recognize each other. So that's what kind of I found out there. Did a pilgrimage to like Cornwall, and in Cornwall we kind of, I anchor everything with a rock, I break the rock on another rock, and one of the charts goes out and cuts my hand open. Blood. That's the stone. That's like I was bitten by a crystal skull. It broke open and had like a mouth, and that's kind of,
The tooth.
yeah, with the tooth, with my tooth. And then this is a whole chapter. I went into the church, and somebody, turns out on the same night while I was doing this guy, John Constable, he walked around the Tor and channeled 3 poems on the same night. And he called it 3 spells for a blue moon. And in those 3 spells, it was as if he knew my story. The poems that he was writing about seemed to mirror everything I did. So out of those 3 spells for a blue moon, I wrote a whole book. Sing for the serving of the Holy Grail, and for the holy fool who lives to tell the tale. I did feel like the holy fool, because did you see the comet coming? Hey. So this is when I left, and part of the whole Grail quest is like that the person looking for the Grail, he's a fool, he's got no idea what he was doing. To have that represented by the painting of a fool in front of her as I'm leaving, fairy tale, but it gets even more fairy tale-ier to like. So I released the book. In this book, it's like an exegesis. I take all the bits of the, here's a poem, here's what I write about this poem, and here I write about the experience in the Lady Chapel, how the 007 theme gets played. I take those books. After on Christmas, they always cut a twig of the holy thorn to give it to the Queen. And I went there straight after the ceremony, cut a twig off, went to the archdruids who just did the ceremony for the Queen. I'm like, look, can you, before this magic even goes on its way to London, can you do me a favor and inject her with the magical powers that are supposed to be on the Queen? And he did. In presence of the mayor, the archdruidess, and the archdruid, he injects the magic into her before it's even on the way to, that's King Charles. That's why their magic these days doesn't really work so good anymore. And oh yeah, so there's then I take these 3 books in the tower to anchor them. Somebody in the tower goes like, oh, let me give you a tendril, a Buddhist gift of auspicious connection. It will boost whatever you do. And I'm like, oh, I'm a Buddhist as well. I'm with the Karmapa, with the Shamapa. And he says like, oh, I'm with the Karmapa. They always recognize each other. And I'm like, oh yeah, really funny. So we're from the same lineage. He gives me a tendril. And this tendril is a 007 silver bar. Huh? And at that moment with him, like, because in this book I also write about my enlightenment, and I write about the Shamapa. For him, coming from the Karmapa, to give me a tendril with the 007, saying it's an auspicious gift of like, in some tradition, people receive a tendril after they reach enlightenment. So with that kind of was like another confirmation for like, yep, what he said was the right thing. Then I did like, I thought this was it. Oh, can you see it now? No, nobody can. So I had to take her back to Ibiza, because there was another comet, funnily enough. There was another comet closest to Earth on the 1st of February. And I'm like, oh yeah, because I've got to do another one in here. But I didn't kind of tell earlier. So basically with the comets, it seemed to be a scheme that has announced itself during my vision quest already. I burn a piece of paper, and this piece of paper looked like a comet. The summer after that, there's a tower a scaffold tower with a big flipping comet on, like tower, comet. That scheme was already there in like 2005. And then like tower, comet, those vibrations. Can you see the connections, what I try to kind of... Are we still all right? Are we still all right? Yeah? If any problems, any like, oh, we need a break or coffee or like whatever, like just tell me, because I've got no idea. And as long as you can still follow and everything kind of makes sense, like this tower, she wouldn't even fit in through. I went there with nobody, and I find again some people up in the tower. I'm like, oh, I need to do like the vibrations in this tower in a week's time. You're coming, and they're like, yay, we're coming. We had to drag her up with a rope to get her in. It's a tower that overlooks Esvedra, and she grew up like she grew next to Esvedra. So for magical purposes, I had to go back to Ibiza and do that there, and that's just a really nice picture of Esvedra and the sunset, magic, alchemy, and that's me standing on top of the tower basically. Then I was like, there was another yurt that needed putting up, like, so basically I went to Ibiza because I had to do these things. At the same time, by dedicating my life to all of that, I got behind with the rent, so I couldn't really stay very long. But they said like, oh, can you help us rebuild that yurt, and we pay you money for it? And I'm like, okay, if I do that work, I need money. Otherwise, like, I need money. I can only stay if I get some money for it. That, no problem. Spent like 10 days working on it. Was allowed to put like do the ceremonies in there a few times. And then at the end they said like, oh no, there you go, you can have 150 euros. And I'm like, for 10 days work, I'm going to be homeless if you do that. Yeah, you can have 100 euros. I was homeless. So I came back from Ibiza. I was homeless. I had nothing left. And girlfriend left me, homeless, the lowest of my life. And then what was that? I went to see the vicar again to see if I can like do the vibrations again. And I explained to him like, oh, Uncle, in the light of Christ, we're working for the same thing. And he said like, well, we need to have another talk. I went in the church and I'm like, guys, can you give me a sign please for the vicar to see? And they did. That's Father Kieran lighting. So this oil lamp, I cleaned it, put it in the oven, burned it again, and then kind of decorated it new. And Father Kieran last year on Easter Sunday, he lit the flames of that oil lamp. Then I had this apparition of the Holy Mother. Well, yeah, like she was like, I am the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames. And it was the other way around. First, I asked for a sign, and this statue, she called me and was like, look at my feet, it's always been there. I look at her feet, and this is the artist's carving. He's a German. And this is how the sign that I carry around my neck, that I had made in Dharamsala when I had her blessed by the Dalai Lama, it fits in like a key. It fits in like a key. When I showed that to the vicar, he said like, oh yeah, it's an intercession by the Holy Mother. I've got to go to the pub. I need another drink. And then I kind of had this apparition that she is the Holy Mother Mary of the Seven Flames, like an icon of the divine. And then everything made sense. How she has been in a church, in a wattle church, like this roundhouse that she stays in is a replica of the first church dedicated to the Holy Mother. How she looks like the Holy Mother in front of like St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery. How I built like 3 tabernacles, 3 churches for her. So the people from that church, they went like, oh yeah, you become homeless. 10 days later, their church burned down to the ground. So it's all magic. If anybody wants to, like, are you done? Are you still all right?
I'm so tired.
Yeah,
When
obviously.
must I check in for
Huh?
our flight?
Pardon?
Must check in our flight.
Uh-huh. If you wanna have a break, or if you wanna like stop it here, I'm not gonna hold anyone like anywhere. Like if you're like really tired, please don't.
A little break.
Huh? Break?
Yes.
I'd be very happy to have a break.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sven, wie lange dauert dein Vortrag noch?
Doesn't matter.
Der offizielle?
Ich probiere so schnell wie möglich durchzugehen. Ich glaube eine halbe Stunde max.
Okay. Dann machen wir mal eine Pause, oder?
Also ich möchte den Flug checken und ich brauche
Und machst du einen Flug?
For a little cramp in the
weil
leg.
ich nämlich
Yeah.
Außenzeit-
But is it like easy enough to follow?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
really
okay.
good. Yeah.